Okay, this is tutorial number 7. I want to just go over here to my open office. In this tutorial, I'm going to break up what we're going to do into actually 2 tutorials. We talked about static arrays and mutable arrays, and I'm going to move this over here for just a second. Recall that both arrays, the static and the mutable, resided in the root view controller. If I go over in there actually and look, this is where they are. Now, that is problematic for any application. You can do it here and there, but I wouldn't make it a thing that I would practice, and here's why. In our main window, in our main nib, the demo app delegate, actually I want to highlight, right, the demo app delegate's here. The demo app delegate is tied, of course, to the file's owner, which in this case, the file's owner, right, that just tells you it's tied with. Our file's owner, oops, sorry, will be, hold on a second, I apologize, the demo app delegate. So, and then a navigational controller here is tied to the demo app delegate. So, here's what happens. Everything is piped through the demo app delegate. This view from the root view controller comes from the root view controller and is pushed onto our main view, where our demo app delegate is the main pipeline of information. Our windows there, our navigational controller, and so forth are tied to it. So everything's tied to the demo app delegate. And as I said earlier, from cradle to grave, from the beginning this thing fires up till the time when it shuts down, information runs through this demo app delegate and will be seen on the screen in that way. Now, we've seen 2 instances here where we can put it on or put information onto a table view without going through the demo app delegate. But I want to prepare you for the inevitable. And so that means we have to create the NS mutable array in the app delegate. And then we have to create a temporary array as well in the app delegate. I'll explain why. Then we got all the references we have in our root view controller that went to self list array now have to go to the new array in the app delegate. And then there's this shared instance expression that you'll understand it when I think you'll understand it when you see it, but I'm going to explain it anyway. Okay, so we're going to go to our demo app delegate, and as we did before, NS mutable array, we're going to call this list array, and we're going to type it the way Apple likes it, lowercase then upper, lowercase in the first few letters, and then of course the type of variable in the last few letters, right? And then we have to create a property for it. We have to give it the ability to be synthesized. And the setters and the getters say we're going to set this variable to something and we're going to get information from it as well. I'm just going to copy the same right over here. We need that as well. Whoops, sorry about that. Here we go. Okay. And you've done this before. It's not that difficult. Okay, we're getting our warning here. So it says create a property, non-atomic, retain it in memory, let software create the getters and setters, and it's an NS mutable array. We're going to save that, come over to here, and we're going to synthesize that, right? And that will be pretty good there. Whoops, sorry. Gotta close it properly. There we go. There we go. And then, of course, because we have retained that over here, we have a +1 on the memory rating. we got to release it in our deallocate, which is over here. And we're going to type that, as you know. We can just type list array release. You don't need to use the self in the release, if you remember from my tutorial before. Only when you set something equal, when you're calling a method, it's not necessary. So there we are. So we've created the array. Now what? Alright. We need the temporary array, right? Create temp array. And the question is why? Why would you do this? Remember I said that you can declare an array but not fill it at the same time? Well, this is the same thing. We declared it, now we have to fill it. But in order to fill it, we have to, oops, sorry, I mean a brace. We have to create the array, or the temporary array that we need, and in other words, create the space for the data. And that's what the temporary array really is. And then we're going to type this in, right, temp array. So we create the space for this array. It's an empty array. We allocate space, we initialize it, which means we have to release it when we allocate space, and then we set it equal to the list array, what we created, what we declared in the beginning. So in other words, this one here, I didn't create the space for it. I simply declared it. So now I need to put space into it, and I do it by using a temp array. It works out very nicely. And then of course we have to release the temp array. And you always want to do that. Okay, 3 lines of code. Everybody's happy. So that's all it takes. That's all it takes for us to set up the information we need in the app delegate. We're done as far as the app delegate goes. We have an array there that we can now reference. And I'm just going to save that. So we have it. We have it right there. 3 lines of code. I'm going to go back just a second here. Create the array here, NSMutable. Create its property. And from here, we now have a temporary array. We allocate space. Give that space to the list array here, and then close the array, the temporary array there. I'm just going to go to my hierarchical view for a minute. Go to my demo app delegate and show you now what we have. Here's a variable for list array. Here's the property. Now notice here that we don't have any variable here listed in here because it's a temporary array. And that's it. It's interesting too that these methods come up with the properties as well. You have a method for set navigational controller. These are the setters and getters that I'm talking about when I say we have to have the non-atomic. You didn't type these in, but it created a set and a set window and a set navigational controller and a set list array. And then you have, of course, our getters too, but which is here and here. So, and over here as well. Those are what I'm talking about when I say the setters and getters that non-atomic will create once it's synthesized. Okay, so let's move back, and we're done as far as the demo app delegate's concerned. We're done here. We've got to go to our root view controller. What I want to do there is something important. I'm going to use a word. It's called class. And I'll explain this in a second. And you can see what I'm typing in right now. It's the word demo app delegate. Alright, okay. And there you have it. Why did I do that? I wanted to say create a class of a demo app delegate. create it. I want it. I need to access that one. I'm going to now comment out, if you will. I'm going to just go over here and comment out anything I don't need. It's going to throw errors onto this here, which is fine. I'm not worried about them now. But I need to here create an instance of the demo app delegate. If I don't ask for the class, I can't create the instance. So I'm going to go demo app delegate here. Sorry. Demo app delegate. And we're going to call this one app delegate. Okay. Alright. So now something interesting is going to happen here. We're not going to create a property for this. We're not going to do that. We go to the hierarchy for a minute and go to my root view. Okay. And the variable is already created for the app delegate. It's already there. I don't need to run a setter and getter for this because I'm simply referencing the class. I'm not setting or getting anything from it. There's no need to do that. Okay. In my root view controller, that was in my declaration file. 2 lines of code. My class and my demo app delegate. So I can reference the demo app delegate here and create the instance of that reference here. Why do I need to do that? In order to see the array in the demo app delegate, to have access to it, I need those 2 lines there. I need to see the demo app delegate and create the variable or instance of it. The instance of it. Pardon me. All right. Now, one more line of code here, right at the top first. I'm going to use the import word, and of course, we're going to import the demo app delegate. We need access to that file. We did it over here. We were able to access, rather, that class here. That's how you do it in the declaration file. But in the implementation, we actually import, meaning we have full access to the demo app delegate declaration file here. All right. Now, we then have to, I'm going to, in this one here, comment this out since we don't access this at all in the deallocate. There's nothing to release here, right? And we're going to go to the Viewdidload, right? One of the things I'm going to do here, go back to my, we want to reference the array in the class, right? So we're here. We no longer can reference self-list data. It doesn't exist. But we can fill the array. How do we do that? Well, the app delegate variable we declared here is now available. We type a brace, app delegate. It's available with IntelliSense. And hold on. And then we space with list array. We don't use dot here. We say access the app delegate variable and the list array, right? And set that equal to, wait a minute, I'm sorry, not list array. There we go, it's dot, I apologize. Set it equal to, and in this case we don't have to array with objects. I believe we do. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. App delegate dot list array. Oh, I apologize. I don't need to put the braces there. That's what I'm. There it is. I'm sorry. It's not a method. I get confused sometimes myself when I code. So let's go through it again. App delegate and dot list array. I look at the instance, and from the instance I pick up the corresponding variable. So from this instance here we We now pick it up and we set it equal to this line of code here. Same thing we had. Instead of having self, it is now app delegate. I'm going to just go back through that one more time for you. Whoop. Sorry. So I don't confuse you. Instead of self list data array, it is now app delegate list data array. I'm sorry, list array, not list data. We changed the name of it, and that's how important naming is. Okay, same thing here. We've got to sort it now, right? Bingo. Everybody's happy. We don't need to set this to nil because it's taken care of us in the app delegate. We're not doing anything to that variable. And then we have the issue here. If you remember, this line of code here counted up the number of rows in the array and said, okay, use that as the number of rows in our table view. Well, it's the same thing here. All right, just do it that way. I'm going to go back again and whoops, I'm sorry. Actually, shift. Okay, and right back again and do it again for you. Go into that line. I like to repeat things so you see it. appdelegate.listArray. Okay. So now we're going to return the appropriate number of rows that are in the demo app delegate. And then over here, it's the same issue we have, right? We don't have this array anymore. But what do we have? Delegate.listArray. And that's gone. And then, so all of our cells will be filled now using the correct array, right? And we go up, we're going to return the correct number of cells that we need or for our table view from the correct array. But you recall we had placed code here. It actually does the deleting from the array. We delete the object. Well, we can't use this one anymore, right? So we simply replace it with our array. And that one's done. We're still getting one more, I think. Let's see. I don't see it here. Oh, no, no more errors. Okay, good. We're out of errors, so we referenced the array correctly in the root view controller, and there's one final thing to do. And it's in the Viewdidload method. It appears here. And I'm just going to, sorry, I want to reference another version of this so I can see it. Alright. I want to copy the code and then explain it to you. I often just don't remember all the code. It's just very difficult to remember all of it. I'm going to copy it here. We're taking the app delegate instance that we created and we're setting it equal to a variable instance of the demo app delegate, and we're saying make it a shared part of the application delegate. I'm going to type this in again so you see it in IntelliSense. I'm going to quote it, comment it out here. App delegate equals demo here it is, demo app delegate. And you notice here we have, and you've seen this before when in methods you've seen it. This is, I'm sorry, we have a brace there instead of a, we have a brace there instead of a parenthesis. Okay. There it is, demo app delegate. This is saying whenever you have a class here with an asterisk, it's saying create a class instance. Not a variable, but an instance of the class of UI application shared application, and it's a delegate. This code may be a little bit tricky at this point, but I'll just take out the one I have up here just so we don't have confusion. I need to activate the app delegate variable to share information to and from these two classes to this class. If I do not do this and I try to run this, I will not fill the table view with anything. You can try that if you want on your own. You won't get an error. It won't do anything wrong. You just won't fill it. You'll have a blank you have a blank table view. So that, in a sense, is why this line is so important. Once you do this, all these links to the app delegate become live. This array and so forth become live, right? And I want to end this quickly and sort of just quickly tell you what the next part will be and run this, and we should be fine if I've done everything correctly, and I believe we have, because we've referenced everything, we've created the array, and there they are. It's as if nothing's happened. If I delete them, they go away, as if nothing's happened. Whoops, I just closed it. And so on. I'm going to take doc away too, maybe, right? I'm going to run it one more time. And they all should come back, and they all do. The difference in what's happening now is, let me bring up the hierarchical view here. Notice in the root view controller there are no variables except the app delegate. Nothing's declared in this class. You know, there's methods and so on, but in the demo app delegate, you'll notice you have all of your variables, including the list array. Everything is piped through the demo app delegate. Why is this important? It's important for us because when we go to push a view in the next tutorial, what's going to happen is we have to access a new class we're going to create. And in order to do that, we can't go from root view controller here, right over here, to the other class. That's out of scope, so to speak. We go from root view controller to demo app, let me do it this way, from root view controller to demo app delegate to the other class. It's our go-between. It's always our go-between between classes. And it's because it's always active. Alright? So, what did we do in this session just to close out? We now have a connection to the demo app delegate as the pipeline. It now contains this river of information to us. We can create the array, we can add, delete stuff from that array, we can modify it, we can do whatever we want. If we're dealing with SQLite, even for example, where we need to do more than one thing, which is we need to, let me see if I have that file quickly available for you under my recent one, data flow. That's the one. In the SQLite one, right, we had to go through the app delegate because one class gathers information from the database, goes through the app delegate, and populates the table view. Right? There's another class which actually does the population of the table view in itself. I mean, the view itself is linked to the class. So you have a class here and a class here. This is our go-between. And this is the way it works with apps. Here we don't have that. Here we just go to the table view. We have no way of communicating with this class holding the NS mutable array and say another class here getting information or modifying something here. And in this instance, nothing can be changed. But this being said, to finish this tutorial, to finish this tutorial, is You may need a static array, which never changes, and you may need one that you might want to make a change here and there too. My advice to you is that you can use the array in its own class, but be aware, you'll never go through the app delegate. You'll never access it from any other class. It'll be shut off, which may be necessary and useful. And in the NS mutable array, it may be the same instance. You may want to make a modification to that array at runtime. Okay, that may be something you want to do. But with this setup here, not only can you make a modification at runtime, but you can save it to the database or the plist. Usually it's a database. And so this shared instance that we just, at the last line, made everything live. Just to jump to that quickly as we come here. Okay, so in the next tutorial, what we're going to do, we're going to add a class that'll allow us to input a new name. Okay, it'll push a view that'll allow us to interact and add a name. And then what we will do after we add the name is we'll dismiss that view. We'll talk about that later when we get into it in tutorial number 8. And once we dismiss the view, it should repopulate the table. This is important because it's the same technique you use with SQLite. The only difference is in SQLite, the data is saved in the database. Here, of course, like the delete portion, it's only happening at runtime. It's not happening in the original code. So anyway, that's tutorial 7. I hope you understand it. If there's any issues, you can contact me at my website or my email, either email that is there. And have a good day. I will see you on tutorial number 8.